So today we're looking for places where people are going. The migrants will change their path, will change which trails they're taking, and so we're going a little bit out of our way to check out a new area and see which we find. We're gonna drive down closer to the Chimacacas, and so with the Border Patrol policy of heavy surveillance in areas like this you can see here where it's relatively flat. With the increased surveillance in these areas, people are then pushed into more dangerous areas like the Chimacacas Mountains. And so that's where we're going today.
I've never hiked north of here, but just based on the mountains, I'm assuming it's going to follow the wash and circle around, because typically the trails don't, they don't just go in straight lines.
A border, we don't think of it like this, but borders are established as military locations. A border is a line of defense for the state. Once you get to the Mexican Revolution in the first and second decades of the 20th century, there's not only more migration, there's also prohibition, so there's the smuggling, but you also have a lot of lawlessness and banditry on the border. You've got Pancho Villa coming across to raid Columbus, New Mexico, which then generated a military response. So, up until the Mexican Revolution, it wasn't uncommon to have a few thousand or 10,000 troops in the region specifically for border security. Again, after Posse Comitatus and certainly after the revolution, you see much less in terms of direct militarization. In 1924 was the first year of the U.S. Border Patrol. And so with 500 members, I think they had, again, not a lot. A lot of that was up north on the U.S.-Canada border as well. You see this kind of retreat, at least comparable to historical presence, this retreat of direct U.S. military presence on the border.
But I haven't been up this road in a while, so I don't know the condition of it.
All right, the first one, was that Coyote 8 or Gray 1? That was Coyote 8.
We try to do first and foremost what the migrant wants. So sometimes they just need a few things, a little bit of help from us, and they want to continue. Sometimes they are looking to give up and they're at the end of their rope. So what we do really depends on what the situation is, what the migrants want from us.
At the early 80s, there was only, if you think in 1924, there were 500 agents. You get to something like Operation Wetback, which is in 1954. There were maybe 1,000 or so, 1,200 to 1,500 agents in the 50s. But by the mid-70s, there's still only about 1,500 or 2,000 Border Patrol agents. It's after that, now by 1990, there's 4,000. By 2000, there's 10,000 or 15,000. By 2010, there's 20,000, and everything just kind of ramps up.
The problem is the detection facilities they have along the wall that would feed into here are pretty intensive, so they have a high probability of getting caught. So they're tending to cross further west where they don't have the fences and stuff, but the problem is there are no facilities over there.
If people want to give themselves up, we'll wait with them until Border Patrol comes. Because there's good and bad agents out here. Everyone's different, and so there are lots of documented cases of abuse by Border Patrol. Not that that's all of them, but there are a lot of cases. So we'll hang around. They're usually a little bit nicer if there's other people around observing them.
I would argue that what happens at a border is directly reflective of the relationships on both sides of the border. So if you look at the US-Canada border and why that looks nothing like the US-Mexico border, you can see that our relationship with Canada is a lot different than our relationship with Mexico and the countries on the other side of Mexico, because again, it's just on the other sides of the borders. So what I would argue is that we, instead of looking at all of our solutions, everything we can do, all of our resources and efforts and money and politics to be put on the border, it's what's going on away from the border that's playing out on the border, that makes the border a symbol of these larger issues that we're not looking at because we're focusing just on what's playing out on this boundary.
And there are some agents who appreciate what we do and they'll thank us, you know. I've even run into Border Patrol agents where we'll be driving in an unfamiliar area, you know, they'll ask what we're doing, and then I had one time where they actually said, oh, you might want to try over in this area, you know, pointed us in a direction that we might want to check out to look either for people or for a place to put water. And so that kind of shows the vast difference. There's Border Patrol agents, you know, including the ones that were caught in film. There's Border Patrol agents that will destroy water, and there's Border Patrol agents that will, you know, kind of give us a point in the right direction.
We select a method of militarizing our borders in order to make the problems go away, to make it so drug cartels don't want to send or can't send drugs over anymore, to make it so immigrants can't get into the US anymore. That's the lens that we look at this problem through, as opposed to what are the larger issues. How have the US interventions into Central America affected migration from Central America to the US? Certainly Central American countries have their own issues, corruption, economic, that have gone back centuries. But we also have contributed to that. We bear at least a portion of responsibility worth discussing and thinking about, hey, what are the solutions that, instead of putting $20 billion a year on border security, what else can we do that would flip it in terms of, if we give $2 billion to Central America for everything else and, you know, $5 billion on security, what would it look like if we switch those? Those, I think, are the ways that we need to look at this so that ultimately we can demilitarize.